Hello. Welcome to TOPHER'S Stories, where stories comes alive. Please subscribe and share with friends. Now, relax and enjoy the story. The sun beat down on the rusted rooftops of the slum. Flies buzzed in the humid air. Children with bare feet played football with a crushed plastic bottle, their laughter mixing with the noise of the nearby bus park. Brandon Cole walked slowly through the dusty street, holding a small wooden box filled with shoe polish, brushes, and torn pieces of cloth. His shirt was too big for his skinny frame, and his trousers were patched in many places. His feet were dusty, cracked from walking barefoot every day. He stopped beside a bench near the bus park. The noise was loud, horns honking, conductors shouting destinations, women arguing over prices. "Shine your shoe, sir?" Brandon asked a man in a suit who had just stepped out of a taxi. The man looked at him, wrinkled his nose, and said, "Go and find a real job, dirty boy." Brandon didn't reply. He just moved to the next person. "Ma, I can clean your sandal for just 10 naira, he offered a woman. She waved her hand and hissed, "Don't touch me." Brandon sighed and sat on the bench. He stared at the people walking by, all in a hurry, all looking so clean, so full. He took out a piece of bread from his pocket. It was dry and hard, but it was all he had. As he chewed slowly, he looked up at the sky. "One day," he whispered, "one day I will be rich. I'll wear suits. I'll drive big cars, and no one will insult me again." A boy about his age, wearing a torn Arsenal jersey, walked by and laughed. "Rich? You," he mocked. "Even flies have more money than you, Brandon." Other boys around the corner started laughing too. Brandon clenched his fist but didn't respond. He was used to the mockery. Later that evening, Brandon returned to the tiny room he shared with his mother. The place smelled of old clothes, kerosene, and sickness. His mother lay on a thin mattress. Her eyes were sunken and her lips were dry. "Ma!" Brandon said softly, sitting beside her. "How are you feeling?" She coughed, then forced a smile. "I'm okay, my son. Did you eat today?" He nodded. "Yes, Ma. I even saved some money. Maybe tomorrow I'll buy you some oranges." She reached out and touched his hand. "God bless you, Brandon. You're all I have in this world." Tears welled up in his eyes, but he wiped them quickly. "Don't worry, Ma. I'll take care of you. One day we'll leave this place." That night, as rain began to fall heavily on the rooftops, Brandon stared at the ceiling, whispering dreams into the darkness. The next day was slow. The rain had chased many people indoors. Brandon sat under a small metal shelter near the bus park, hugging his box tightly to keep it dry. His clothes were soaked and his stomach growled. Lightning flashed in the sky, followed by loud thunder. People ran for cover, stepping in puddles, shielding their heads with plastic bags and old newspapers. Brandon didn't expect to make any money that day, but something told him to stay. As he waited, something strange happened through the heavy rain. He saw an old man walking alone, struggling with an umbrella that the wind kept blowing away. The man wore a black coat, but he was clearly too weak to fight the storm. Suddenly, the man stumbled and collapsed right in front of Brandon. "Hey!" Brandon shouted, rushing over. "Sir, are you okay?" The man didn't respond. His face was pale, his breathing slow. Without thinking, Brandon dropped his box and knelt beside him. He tried to lift the man's head gently. "Help!" he called out, but people nearby ignored him. One woman looked over and said, "Mind your business, boy. He might be drunk." Brandon ignored her. "Sir, can you hear me?" The man opened his eyes slightly and whispered, "Water." Brandon quickly opened his plastic bottle and held it to the man's lips. After a few sips, the man coughed and looked at Brandon. You helped me," he said in a weak voice. Brandon nodded. "Yes, sir. You fainted. Should I call someone?" The man shook his head slowly. "No, just help me stand." With all his strength, Brandon helped the man up and guided him under the shelter. For a few minutes, they sat in silence, watching the rain fall. The man studied Brandon carefully. "What's your name?" he asked finally. "Brandon, sir." "You live around here?" Brandon nodded. Yes, sir. I shine shoes at the park. The old man smiled faintly. You're very kind. Most people would have walked away. Brandon shrugged. You look like you needed help. After a pause, the man said something strange. What if I told you this moment just changed your life? Brandon frowned. I don't understand, sir. The man looked into the distance. I've been searching for someone who still has kindness left in their heart. It seems I just found him. Brandon looked confused. I still don't understand. The man slowly reached into his coat and brought out a small black card. My name is Mr. Daniels, he said. Come to this address tomorrow. Ask for me. Don't tell anyone, not even your mother. Brandon took the card and read the address. It was a part of the city he had only heard rich people talk about. What will I do there? He asked. Mr. Daniels smiled. Let's just say, I reward people who deserve more than life has given them. Then he stood up. I'll see you tomorrow, Brandon. He walked away slowly, disappearing into the rain. Brandon stood there, staring at the black card in his hand. His heart beat fast. Was this real? A joke? Or was this the beginning of something big? He didn't know, but something told him. His life was about to change forever. Brandon stood in front of a tall black gate in one of the richest areas of the city. He had never seen houses like this. Huge walls, bright flowers, clean streets. He looked down at his dusty feet and torn clothes. He felt out of place. The security man looked at him suspiciously. What do you want? Brandon held out the black card. I came to see Mr. Daniels. He told me to come. The guard raised an eyebrow, looked at the card, then made a phone call. After a moment, he nodded, and the gate slowly opened. Go straight. Don't touch anything, the guard said. Brandon walked nervously into the compound. It looked like a dream. Freshly cut grass, a fountain in the middle, and a house bigger than anything he'd ever imagined. Inside, a young woman in a white suit met him at the door. Brandon Cole, she asked. Yes, Ma. Follow me. Mr. Daniels is waiting. He was led into a room filled with books, old paintings, and a large wooden desk. Mr. Daniels sat behind it, wearing a black suit and a calm expression. Ah, Brandon, he said, smiling. You came. Good. Brandon nodded, unsure what to say. Sit down, Mr. Daniels said, pointing to a chair. Brandon sat quietly, eyes scanning the room. I know you have questions, Mr. Daniels began. You're wondering why a man like me would call a street boy into his home. Brandon said nothing. Mr. Daniels leaned forward. Life is not fair, Brandon. You know that. Some people are born with everything. Some, like you, have to fight just to eat. Brandon looked down at his hands. Yes, sir. I want to offer you something, Mr. Daniels continued. A new life, money, power, education. But, he raised a finger, it comes with one serious condition. Brandon looked up. What condition, sir? Mr. Daniels opened a drawer and brought out a file. You will sign this contract, he said. Once you do, you must follow every instruction I give you. And most importantly, you must never speak of what you see tonight. Not to your mother, not to your friends, not to anyone. Brandon's heart raced. Why? What's going to happen? Mr. Daniels looked at him closely. What's going to happen will change your life. But if you speak of it, the deal ends immediately, and your life will go back to what it was. Maybe worse. Brandon swallowed hard. Do you trust me? Mr. Daniels asked. I don't know you, Brandon replied honestly. Mr. Daniels chuckled. Good answer. But I trusted you when you gave me water in the rain. Now it's your turn. Brandon stared at the contract. His hands trembled as he picked up the pen. He thought about his sick mother, about the insults, about the cold nights and empty stomach. I have nothing to lose, he whispered and signed. Mr. Daniels smiled. Very good. Now your new life begins. After signing the contract, Brandon was taken into a private elevator hidden behind a bookshelf. It moved slowly, deep underground. The elevator doors opened to a large hallway glowing with soft golden lights. Brandon's eyes widened. What is this place? he asked the woman who guided him. "You'll see," she replied calmly. The hallway led to a massive underground vault, like a secret city hidden beneath the mansion. There were rooms with glass walls, people in suits walking briskly, screens showing maps and stock markets, and shelves filled with books and strange gadgets. Brandon had never seen anything like it. They stopped in front of a door labeled, "Grooming UNIT 3. The woman turned to him. "From today, your training begins. We will teach you how to speak, how to dress, how to think like the world's richest people. You'll learn business, negotiation, public speaking, investment, everything." Brandon blinked. "Why me?" The woman looked serious. "Because Mr. Daniels believes you have the heart and the hunger. That's rare." Inside the room, Brandon was introduced to 3 teachers. Mr. Gray, a sharp-tongued speech coach who promised to fix that street accent. Madam Leah, a fashion expert who said she would make him look like a king. Dr. Toby, a former professor who would teach him business strategy. Brandon's first week was the hardest of his life. He woke up at 5 a.m. every day. He was made to read books he didn't understand, practice tongue twisters, wear suits that felt too tight, and do exercises that made his body ache. Stand straight. Mr. Gray shouted during speech class, "You are not a beggar anymore. Speak like a man." Brandon struggled, but never gave up. He often thought of his mother, sleeping alone in that small room, thinking he was out shining shoes. "Focus." Madam Leah snapped one day as she helped him with posture. "You walk like the world is on your back. Lift your chest. You're going to carry the world." Brandon began to change. Slowly, his words became clearer. He started understanding numbers, strategy, and how rich people think. He stopped looking down when he walked. He started to believe. One evening, after a long day of training, Mr. Daniels invited him to a private dinner. "You've improved," he said as they ate in a quiet room lit by candles. "Thank you, sir. Do you know why this is happening to you?" Mr. Daniels asked. Brandon shook his head. "Because the world needs new leaders. People who come from the dust but don't stay there." Brandon stared at his fork. "I just want to help my mother." Mr. Daniels smiled. "And you will. But first, you must become someone no one can ignore." Days turned into weeks. Brandon was given suits, books, and even a fake name to practice with. He was no longer just a street boy. He was becoming someone else, someone powerful. But there are also strange things. He noticed rooms he wasn't allowed to enter. People whispered and disappeared when he came near. Some wore black rings with a strange symbol. One night, as he walked down a hallway alone, he heard a door click open. He peeked in and saw men in black suits sitting around a round table with a glowing screen in the middle. Before he could see more, the woman guide appeared. "You are not allowed there," she said sharply. "Go back to your room." Brandon obeyed, but felt a shiver. What exactly had he signed up for? Still, he continued training. The transformation was working. He was learning, growing, changing, from a boy with dusty feet to a man with the world at his feet. The news headlines were everywhere. Brandon Cole, the young African tech genius shaking the world. From nobody to billionaire in just 1 year. Meet the man behind V-Smart, Africa's fastest growing tech company. Brandon stood in front of hundreds of people, wearing a custom black suit, speaking on a giant stage at the Africa Tech Summit in Nairobi. Behind him, a screen displayed the logo of his company, V-Smart, a mobile app that connected students in rural areas to free education, job training, and remote work opportunities. V-Smart is not just an app, Brandon said into the microphone. It's a movement. It's proof that Africa can build world-changing solutions from within. The crowd clapped wildly. Cameras flashed. Investors smiled. Everyone wanted to be associated with the new tech wizard. But deep down, only Brandon knew the truth. This wasn't just talent. It was strategy. It was power. It was the deal he signed underground. Back at his penthouse in Lagos, Brandon removed his tie and looked out at the city lights. Everything was so different now. He had personal chefs, private security, invitations to global conferences, and more money than he could spend. But the nights were still quiet, and the memories still returned. He remembered sleeping on concrete floors, begging people to shine their shoes, watching his mother cough and hide her pain. "Are you happy now?" he whispered to his reflection. Behind him, a voice replied, "You should be." Mr. Daniels stepped into the room. He hadn't aged a day. "You're now one of the most talked about men in Africa," he said. "Well done." Brandon didn't smile. "People think I built V-Smart by myself. But everything, the team, the code, the funding, it was already prepared." Mr. Daniels nodded. "And who do you think builds a world? The masses? No, Brandon. It's always the few in the shadows. We gave you the tools, but you walked the path." Brandon turned slowly. "Why me?" Mr. Daniels looked serious. "Because you were hungry enough to say yes. And now, you belong to a circle that changes the course of history." Brandon was silent for a long time. "I want to help more people," he said. "Real help, not just headlines." Mr. Daniels raised an eyebrow. "That's noble. But don't forget, you're still bound by the contract. Don't try to be a hero. Be smart." Then he left, as quietly as he came. Brandon sat on the edge of his bed and looked at his phone. It vibrated. A new message from an unknown number. "We need to talk." Asked about his childhood, his thoughts on African leadership, his fears. "You're not like the others," Brandon said quietly. She smiled. "Neither are you." That night, something clicked. They began seeing each other. Late-night phone calls, quiet dinners, weekends at private beaches. For the first time in a long time, Brandon felt something real. But what he didn't know was that Samantha had a hidden agenda. In her apartment, walls were filled with newspaper clippings, charts, and printed articles about Brandon's sudden rise. She had been investigating him for 3 months before they even met. "There's no record of him before V-Smart," she told her editor over the phone. "No university degree, no previous company, nothing. It's like he just appeared." Her editor, Tom, warned her, "Be careful. If he's connected to something powerful, you could be walking into danger." "I can handle it," she said. But things got complicated. She hadn't expected to like him, and now she was falling in love with the man she was supposed to expose. One evening, as they sat on Brandon's balcony watching the sunset, Samantha asked carefully, "Can I ask you something personal?" "Of course," Brandon replied, pouring her a glass of wine. "Where did the money really come from?" she asked. "I mean, V-Smart is great, but even good ideas don't explode like this overnight." Brandon's smile faded. "That's a deep question," he said. She leaned forward. "I'm serious, Brandon. People are talking. Some think you're being used by political players. Others say you have a silent investor." He stood and looked away. "Why are you really here, Samantha?" She looked hurt. "What do you mean?" Brandon turned slowly. "Are you investigating me?" The silence between them grew heavy. Samantha sighed. "I was, at first. But then I saw the real you, and I didn't know how to stop." Brandon's eyes narrowed. "So all this time it was just a game?" "No," she said quickly. "It started as research, yes. But now it's more than that. I care about you." Brandon looked down, hurt and angry. "You lied to me." "You're lying to the world," she snapped. "Don't act like you're innocent." He clenched his jaw. "I signed something. I can't tell the truth." She stared at him. "What did you sign?" Brandon said nothing. Samantha stepped forward. "Brandon, I want to help you. But secrets like this, they always come out." He looked into her eyes. "Then don't dig too deep. For your own good." She turned and left, leaving the glass of wine untouched. Brandon sat alone on the balcony, staring at the city lights. His heart was heavy. He was living 2 lives, one filled with power and one filled with love. And soon, one of them would have to end. Brandon couldn't sleep. Even in his luxury penthouse, surrounded by gold walls, soft beds, and expensive silence, something felt wrong. He stared at the ceiling, heart pounding. Then it began again. A whisper, soft, cold. "You're next." Brandon sat up quickly. He looked around. "Who's there?" Silence. He rubbed his face, breathing hard. "It's just in my head," he told himself. But deep down he knew it wasn't. Over the next few days, the whispers grew louder, at first at night, then even during the day. Sometimes he saw shadows moving behind mirrors. Sometimes he felt like someone was watching him. Even when he was alone, during a meeting with investors, Brandon suddenly froze mid-sentence. He saw a pale figure in the corner of the room, staring at him. Its eyes were hollow. "Brandon?" one investor asked. Brandon blinked. The figure was gone. "Sorry," he said, wiping sweat from his forehead. "I haven't slept well." He called Mr. Daniels that night. "I need answers," Brandon said. "I'm hearing things, seeing things. What's happening to me?" Mr. Daniels sighed on the phone. "It means the time has come." "For what?" Brandon asked. "To understand the true price of the contract." Brandon's voice shook. "What did you give me? Or put inside me?" Mr. Daniels paused, then said, "You ever wondered why you never met the others who signed the deal before you?" Brandon's heart sank. There were others? There were 5 before you, each one chosen, each one rich, but they broke the rules. Brandon's mouth went dry. And what happened to them? They vanished. Some say the wealth ate them alive. Some say they tried to expose the truth. Brandon's hand trembled. "You didn't tell me this before." "You didn't ask," Mr. Daniels replied coldly. "And now you're too deep to walk away." The line went dead. Brandon stared at his reflection. His eyes looked darker, his skin paler. What am I turning into? One night, he found a dusty old file hidden in a drawer inside his private study. It was marked Subjects 001 to 005. Inside were photos of 5 men, all smiling in the beginning. All disappeared by the end. The last page had just one line written in red. "Wealth is never free. Someone must always pay." 7 to 2. Brandon felt a scream rising in his throat. Brandon returned home late one evening, exhausted and disturbed. As he stepped into his living room, he stopped dead. Samantha was there. She stood by his desk, holding a familiar black folder, the contract. Brandon's blood turned cold. "Where did you get that?" he asked sharply. "It was locked in your safe," she replied, her voice trembling. "But I remembered your password from the night you were drunk. Dusty Feet 12. That's what they used to call you, right?" Brandon walked slowly toward her. "You shouldn't be reading that." "I had to read it." Samantha shouted, "You've been lying to the world. This contract, this isn't a business deal, Brandon. It's a curse." Brandon swallowed. "It's not what you think." She threw the folder on the floor. "It says you gave them full control of your future, that you agreed never to question their authority. You even signed with your own blood." He looked away, ashamed. "I tried to protect you from this," he said quietly. "I was going to find a way out for both of us." Samantha's eyes filled with tears. "You let me fall in love with you while you were walking deeper into darkness?" "I didn't choose this life," Brandon whispered. "I was desperate. My mother was dying. I was starving. They came when I had nothing. And now you have everything, except peace," she said. "I've seen the way you look over your shoulder. The fear, the voices. You're breaking." Brandon stepped closer. "Please, Sam, don't tell anyone." She shook her head. "I'm a journalist, Brandon. This is the biggest story of my life. If people knew the truth." Brandon grabbed her hands. "They'll kill you." Samantha froze. "I've seen what they do to people who break the rules," he said. "Those 5 men, they disappeared. You think they just vanished by accident." Her voice softened. "You're not a monster, Brandon. You still have a heart." Brandon's jaw clenched. "But if you speak, they'll rip it out." Suddenly, his phone buzzed. A message from Mr. Daniels. "She knows. Handle it." Brandon's breath caught. Samantha saw the message. "They're watching us." "They always are," Brandon replied. She backed away slowly. "Then I need to go. I need to think." Brandon didn't stop her. She left in silence. As the door closed, Brandon sat on the floor beside the fallen contract, hands in his hair. He had 2 choices now: protect the woman he loves and risk losing everything. Protect the secret and lose himself. And somewhere deep in the shadows, the elites were waiting to see what he'd choose. Brandon stood at his balcony, staring at the city lights one last time. In his hand was a small flash drive, the one thing that could burn it all down. Inside it were photos, videos, voice recordings, secret files, everything Mr. Daniels and the elites had hidden underground, everything they had done to others before him. Contracts, surveillance footage, even the names of the 5 missing men. Brandon took a deep breath. No more running. No more silence. He walked back into his study and picked up the phone. "Samantha," he said, "I'm ready. Let's tell the truth." She came that night, eyes red but determined. "Are you sure about this?" she asked. "If we do this, there's no going back." "I know," Brandon said, "but if I stay quiet, more people will suffer. I can't carry this anymore." Together, they uploaded the flash drive contents to a private server. Then Samantha prepared a story, her biggest ever. Headline: "The Billionaire Puppet. The secret society controlling Africa's richest men." Before publishing, Samantha looked at Brandon. "Are you scared?" Brandon nodded. "Terrified. But ready?" He nodded again. They hit publish. Boom. Within hours, the internet exploded. Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, everyone was talking about it. News stations ran the story across Africa and beyond. Brandon Cole was everywhere. Half of the world called him a whistleblower, a hero, a man of courage. The other half called him a liar, a madman. The elites? They were quiet, too quiet. Brandon and Samantha went into hiding, moving from hotel to hotel. They didn't trust anyone. One night, as they lay low in a dusty safe house in Ghana, Samantha turned to Brandon. "I never said this before," she whispered, "but I love you." Brandon looked into her eyes. "Even after everything?" "Especially after everything," she said. "You risked your life for the truth, for people like me, for kids like the boy you once were." He smiled weakly. "I'm just trying to be free." That night, he slept peacefully for the first time in months. But the peace didn't last. The next morning, someone knocked on their door. Brandon opened it. Nobody was there, just an envelope on the ground. He opened it slowly. Inside was a photo of his mother, taken yesterday. Brandon's heart dropped. On the back of the photo, 3 words were written in red ink. "Last warning, boy." He collapsed to his knees, shaking. Samantha hugged him tightly. "What now?" Brandon's eyes burned with fire. "We don't run anymore," he said. "We finished this." 1 year later, Africa was different, and so was Brandon. He had disappeared from the spotlight after the story dropped. No interviews, no posts, no sightings. Some said he died. Others said he escaped to Europe. Nobody knew until today. A large crowd gathered in Nairobi as cameras rolled. A new building stood tall in the middle of a dusty neighborhood, the same kind Brandon once lived in. The banner read, "The Cole Foundation for Dreamers. Free schools, free meals, free business mentorship." Then a black SUV pulled up. Brandon stepped out. He wore a simple shirt and jeans. No gold watches, no fancy sunglasses, just a calm look in his eyes. The crowd cheered wildly. He stepped onto the stage with Samantha beside him. "Today," he began, "we start again." He looked out at the children in the crowd, barefoot, dusty, just like he once was. "I was you once," he said. "Hungry, hopeless, angry. I thought the only way to be great was to join powerful men in suits. I was wrong." He took a breath. "Wealth is not power. Truth is." He pointed to the new school building. "This is not just brick and paint. It's a door, and I want every child in Africa to walk through with pride." The crowd applauded. Later that night, Samantha asked him, "Are you truly free now?" Brandon looked at her. "As free as I can be." She smiled. "You did it, Brandon." He nodded. "We did." They held hands as the sun set behind the new school. But just as the credits of Brandon's life seemed to roll, a black car pulled up near the school gate. Inside it sat an old man in a sharp gray suit. He watched Brandon from behind tinted glass, then picked up a phone and said 3 words. "He still remembers." The voice on the other side replied, "Then he's still ours." The line went dead. Mr. Daniels smiled faintly as the screen on his dashboard showed Brandon's face. Legacy or lies, the game never ends.